Welcome back to Shredder's Not Dead. If it makes you bang your head, we'll talk with them or about them. And I'm joined today by my good friend Eirik from many bands, including Ruun, who have just finished up a gig at Inferno Fest. Is that right?
Yeah, we played basically yesterday, and I'm just gonna be an asshole and correct you. There's Ruun.
Ah,
Uh,
no,
a
thank
lot
you
a
for the
lot of
correction.
people get that mixed up. They call us Run to use, which would have been weird if you ask me. But yeah, the Ruun.
Rune. Okay. Well, thank you for the correction. Where's that come from, by the way? Is there some meaning behind that?
Um, Both yes and no. I think the main reason is probably that in 2017, when we started out the band, we went so many different names, and we found so many names that thousands of other bands were also called. So and I really liked Enslaved a lot at the time, and I know you interviewed Iver Sunday,
Yeah.
and he wasn't playing on that record, but the record Ruun from 2006 or something. Uh, that's where I that name first introduced me. Then I was like, that's a cool name. Does any band have that name? And then I checked. There was no other bands by that name. And if all the other old school bands can name their bands from bands they like, why can't I?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's always a little bit
But
of a nervous
I
time,
think
isn't it? You've come up with this great band name and you're frantically searching the internet. Oh my god, has anyone else done this yet? Or
exactly. What I've heard is like it's a term for like old Norse term for chaos, like as in ruin. Uh, that's what I've been told, but
ah,
I can't really fact check that, but that's what I've been told, and I think that's a good, cool way of describing it. So I'll just go with that.
yeah, I like it. And you're adding your own meaning to it as you go and as the band grows, hopefully. So
Yeah, and
happens with
also
these things.
good morning to you, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, morning's right. So it's yeah, for those listening at home, what I'm 8 hours behind and a day or something ahead. What does that work out to? Like, anyway, it's only just ticked over 7 a.m. here, and
Uh, 11:15.
yeah, there you
Yeah.
go. Yeah, so Inferno Fest, look, the lineup was absolutely huge. I was hoping to make it over, but time and money and 30 hours worth of flights sort of stopped that from happening. But how was it being on the same bill as Cannibal Corpse and Vitane? Must be pretty exciting.
Of course. I mean, I never thought when I was like 16 years old and started the band that like never uh, poster like that. But we made it to the club shows, and not only did I play with the Ruun, but I also played with my other band, Filthdigger. So I did two shows in a row. Like we were the first two bands on yesterday, like Sunday, and we were really scared that not really many people would show up, but it was packed. That was really cool. Because when it's like 4 days of a long, tiring extreme metal festival, I really get that. Don't really bother to see everything, but that didn't bother the crowd yesterday. It seemed so. It was a really good show. But of course, sharing a poster with a band like Cannibal Corpse and with other cool bands like Offshoot, Necromantion, the list goes on. Uh, but of course, Cannibal Corpse being one of the biggest death metal bands ever, and we are one of the smaller death metal bands in the Norwegian underground. So it's quite a cool experience and a cool thing to have, call it
Yeah, for sure. And it's something
history
I
or something.
was, yeah, no, completely understood. Something I was interested in picking your brains on a little bit is that, Norway, Oslo in particular, is known for its black metal. I think it's the first thing that comes to mind for a lot of people musically when they think about, um, metal in that part of the world. But of course, there is a pretty rich death metal scene as well. And love to hear have a someone who's pretty deeply involved in it thinks it's going at the moment. And And if there's any interesting history of that you want to bring up, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, because Inferno has always been known. They started in 2000. I think it was either 2000 or 2001, but it's been like this staple for black metal as a festival for so long. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Black metal is nice in its many ways, but I think for me it got really like it went really quick from a cool thing to discover, like really young, like this super raw energy and extreme music that you never heard before. And for me, that kind of I don't know, it kind of went away not too long after I discovered it, and then bands like Opeth, Cannibal Corpse, etc., more Morbid Angel, and those kind of bands showed up and just immediately grabbed me because the riffage and the, I don't know, like the quality of sound and the intensity and just something else, and it just grabbed me way better. So that's one of the main reasons why I myself wanted to do a death metal band because in Norway, not as much as Finland, but in Norway we have quite a lot of black metal bands per person there. So to have some more death metal in the mix never seemed wrong. And as soon as we started the Ruun and got more involved in it, went more nerdy about it, we discovered that Norway has a lot of good death metal bands, and the scene is there, and it's always kind of been there, but it's way smaller than the poster boy that is black metal for Norway. And I think what's really cool now is that with the festival that I'm co-arranging or organizing Oslo Death Fest, this is going to be our first year, uh, taking place first weekend of December. So that's going to be fun. And with the announcing of that, we really saw huge growth and popularity around music and the scene, Norwegian Death Metal. So one of my main goals and focus was to showcase the Norwegian scene and the bands of the genre. There are bands that are good, and you see like other Scandinavian bands like Denmark now, they just shooting out all these death metal bands everywhere, and everyone's like, "Oh, the Danish scene is so good," and it is. It's really good. But me being in the middle of Oslo right now and seeing what's happening here, it's really important for me to like showcase and bring out that Norway also has something to offer.
Mm.
So it's quite exciting to see how it's going to go and how it's growing. There's way more fans in my age group now that's starting out playing death metal thrash, because I think the population in general now, extreme metal music wise, like black metal, has been said and done for quite a long time now, especially history wise for Norwegians, and the Inferno Festival being such prominent, and we have a bunch of these other black metal festivals like Beyond the Gates, Imperium. So felt natural for me to think about something like Oslo Death Fest, because I have like Killtown Death Fest, Copenhagen, and Helsinki Death Fest has been doing its thing for years now, and Reykjavik Death Fest in Iceland.
Mm.
And I made this. I booked this because I never did booking. Like I haven't done booking for a year even. Like I've always been doing booking for my bands stuff I do myself, but I really want to start doing something for other bands. Try it, see how that will work out. And I did this underground thingy with some friends of mine called December Destruction, which happened the 10th of December. That was now, and got four local death metal bands, and it got packed. It was really great show, and we sold out. We had to shut the doors and everything. So that was like the catalyst for motivating me the Oslo Death Fest. Uh, yeah, looking really fun and promising. We're also doing some one-off event to throw some hype around it and see if people are as thirsty as I hope they are.
Mm, yeah, for sure. And in terms of inspiration on the Oslo scene, when you think of Scandinavian death metal, I mean, I think the big scene that sort of came to mind was the Swedish scene, back in the 90s. You know, you had Entombed and all the myriad of bands that came with the chainsaw sound after that. But we also don't live in an age where we're restricted to trading tapes with our friends. We have the internet now, so we can discover whatever metal we like whenever we like. So what what sorts of bands do you think are really influential? Or what sorts of sounds do you think are in the Oslo death metal DNA? What are the things that give that particular scene its sound?
Uh, good question. I think um, what's what makes like Norwegian death metal more like what gives it its character is ironically black metal. Because what I think a lot of the Norwegian death metal bands are really good at is like showing passion and showing like this really rawness to it and atmosphere. Uh, as like of obliteration with their latest record, Cenotaph Obscure, really just captures that really really well. Like building this atmosphere, this rawness, but it's still death metal by its core. And I think multiple other bands managed to do the same because like the Swedish sound is so straight with thrash beats and the HM2 pedals. But I really like the use of minor chords and tons of reverb, but still this wall of sound, which is Norwegian death metal in my ears. So I think that's where the main character of like the Norwegian style comes from is like the old like black metal soul to it because Darkthrone started out as a death metal band and quickly turned into black metal, but Darkthrone always had like this harsh and raw and like rhythmic thundering sound to it, which definitely has death metal potential in it. So
Mm.
I think that's like the main roots, I guess.
Yeah, I think you can hear a little bit of the Soul Side Journey era Dark Throne in a lot of the Norwegian stuff even now. But it seems like, as you say, to be less about trying to be a Dark Throne or trying to copy that. It's just sort of a byproduct of this the Norwegian tendency to go for this really raw, thunderous kind of sound, and it's really really cool. Yeah, a big fan of that sort of stuff. And so you've got Ruun and you've got Filthdigger as well that are among, I think you've been involved in some other bands if I remember correctly, but they're the two you'd say you're most involved in at the moment.
Yeah, I'm a little crazy and I got way too many projects. I think a lot of the people who are passionate about culture and extreme metal tend to, I don't know, put too much stuff over their heads,
Mm,
to say it in Norway.
yeah.
um, so yeah, it's the Ruin is my like child or like baby. It's like the first real serious thing that I ever did with my friend Magnus, who's the bass player. Started out with this drummer called Håvard when we started at music school together. Uh, but then I joined Filthdigger 2 years ago. That band has been I think for like 10 years now. They needed a second guitarist, and yes, and I just it's a year ago now. Stian, the bass player of the Norwegian band Blood Red Throne, he asked me if I wanted to do some vocals for this new project he was doing. Of course, yeah, sounds killer, and it's called Celestial Scourge. Got the EP out now on Time to Kill Records. It's brutal tech death stuff, some slammy breakdowns and stuff. Like, not usually my, I don't know, expertise when it comes to what I am comfortable playing with, but sounded like a cool challenge, and I took it, and it was really fun experience doing it, and I thought the turnout was really, really great. We got on drums, we got Christopher Ruun, an amazing drummer, like best extreme metal drummers in all of Norway, if you ask me. And we got so it was like mainly us three doing the EP, and then we got Hans Jakob and Sindre Vatne from Norwegian band Deception. It was more like melodic death metal stuff. So yeah, now we're like this full group of guys from who all play in different death metal bands. So it's like this stupid, really niche, small underground super group in some weird way.
The bloodbath
It's
of
like,
Norway.
no, I wouldn't say that. But combined, we have shit ton of bands within that one group. We're getting some new demos now. I'm gonna make an album pretty soon. It's gonna be cool, and that's like one of the more active ones now. And I play in also this duo project called Uma, which is with our current drummer in Ruun as well, called Eivind. So we did Uma before Eivind joined Ruun, which is like the sludgy, experimental, noisy stuff. It's just like a playground for me and Eivind to do whatever the F we want to do. Uh, those are like the four main ones, but I also got like some side stuff as well, and also the booking and festival stuff. So yeah, it's quite a map.
Yeah, gotcha. Keep yourself busy. And when you're working, playing guitar, coming up with riffs or lyrical ideas, does it become immediately obvious to you which of these projects that you think it fits, or how do you go compartmentalizing so many different creative outlets when you're trying to be creative and something comes to mind? Is it immediately obvious to you, oh, this is a Ruun riff and this should go in a song there? Or is it more a case of whatever you happen to be working on at the time, you might try and come up with something and make it fit for that project?
I mean, the bands work in such different ways. I mean,
Mm.
with the duo Uma, we just jam out stuff. It's just me and Ivan playing together and just playing stuff, just jamming and jamming and jamming. Then we record all the jam sessions, just put all the parts we like together, and call it a song. So that's really like self-made. With Rune, it started out with me doing most of the composing and yeah, the riffage, because at the time I was the one who had the most songwriting experience. But now with time, I really wanted to involve everyone because we're just three guys. I want everyone who's involved to have a saying in music. I think that's important to share. I don't know, the expression of it. So with Rune now, we're doing more jam session stuff. I come up with some riffs and I record them and then I show them to the guys and they like it or not. But with Filthdigger, it's more. I'm not the main songwriter there at all. It's just I made one song for the new album which is coming out, and mainly the other guys who did the stuff and writing for that, basically mainly just jamming the basics. As well as Still Scourge is like the most I don't know, like the most planned. Like we tab things out, we record it, and then we send demos. But I only do vocals, so it's not really. I don't really have so much to say about the instrumentals. But of course, if I think it's shit, I'll say it's shit. um, so all the projects have like their different ways to go, but I think like the main thing is just to get together in the room, being present, and just throwing stuff out. That's like the best thing that's been working for me in general, though.
Bit of change of topic. How are you finding booking and promoting at the moment? How's the scene going in terms of shows in general in Norway? And are you? I hate talking about COVID in particular with interviews and whatnot, but are you finding that everything's bouncing back past that, or is it fundamentally different now?
That's a good question. I mean, these are topics I've been thinking about for quite some time now. I mean, again, my booking career hasn't been that long, but with the time I've been doing or been involved in any concert gig or any cultural events, 'cause I work as a band host as well, one of my part-time jobs, and then we get all the sales reports, stuff like that. And of course, with the stuff I book myself, we get all the sales statistics, etc. What I think is the most scary part as of right now is, of course, pre-sales. How we were so reliant on pre-sales to know if we're going to be able to do a show or not. And like with all the Facebook events and stuff like that, you could get like an estimate of how many tickets you would sell, and they would usually pan out. But today it's just total like shot from the hip. It's like it could be like 100 going and 200 interested in, and it's gonna be like 50 people showing up and like 4 people at the doors. It's so different, and we can have shows that have because the venue I work at called Revolver slash Kniven, which is like the basement, small stage. It has like a max cap of 150, and one day we sold like 20 tickets on beforehand in pre-sales, and then in the doors we had like 80 not to 90 people showing up at the doors. And that's just like it's just stupid. It's like how can you can never really figure out anything on beforehand. It makes things so unsure. And I think that's one of the main things I'm worried about for Oslo Death Fest. That's why we really hope that the Norwegian death metal spirit awakens quite soon now, so we can get some stuff going. But I know there's been people from other countries as well who's bought their festival passes. That's comforting. But COVID, I mean, because how a lot of these festivals work is that you have contracts that you sign, festival contracts that you're binded to play this festival in X amount of years or X amount of months, etc. So a lot of these bigger bands had like so many festivals, like the summer festivals, queued up for now 2 years, 3 years because of the COVID shit. And now we get to see like this huge halt and like this huge overflow of like queue bands who all has their stuff delayed. Now they want to catch up, and it's insane. Like all the tour buses in Europe were pretty much they were all rented out at a certain time. So a guy that I know replacing like thousands of bands, he was gonna do a Germany tour, but they couldn't because all the nightliners were fucking rented out. So because so many bands are out touring out, everybody wants to play, everyone's hungry, everybody wants to catch up all the stuff they lost during COVID, and I get that, but it's quite a terrifying thing because like when is this like queue is like when is it gonna even out? Like how it's like the tsunami effect. Like how is it gonna like eat? Like is it ever gonna even out? Are we ever gonna stop having like festivals announcing full lineups 2 years ahead? It's like so everything's still really really new. So I saw that Maryland Death Fest announced their lineup for 2024 May.
Oh jeez.
Yeah, it's stupid, but
Yeah.
I get it because they want to be sure that they are going to sell out. They want pre-sales to be sure, so that's why they're doing it so far ahead. But it's like it's chaotic. Like, and now I got to book for my own bands because I do all the booking myself. Like now I got to book stuff for like late 2024. There's like who the fuck knows what they're doing in late 2024? Like it's crazy. So I'm really scared to see. Well, it's exciting slash scary to see how that development will evolve. This will ever even out, or if we are going to be stuck in a queue for like years plus every.
Yeah, and it kind of mirrors a lot of what a lot of the bands I talk to in terms about new releases talk about too, is that it's just such a tough time to release an LP or to release anything really, but it's the LPs that you probably put the most money and want the best return from in terms of sales, where there's just so many bands that all went, oh, well, I've got nothing to do except write. And now they've got an album 2 albums worth of material that they've been sitting on ready to go, and there's just complete saturation, and the general public only has so much money to spend on shows and on albums, but also so much attention. And as much as I love heavy metal, there's only so many records in a day I can listen to in terms of the amount of time I'm awake. And
Yeah,
it just seems to be the same thing, that everyone's just playing catch up still. And I think naturally over time it'll have to even out somehow, because, you know, as you say, not everyone can tour at once with all the venues being booked and all the buses being booked for traveling and all that. But it's still, who knows how long that'll take to set back to normal, right?
yeah, it's weird times. And what you're saying about like prices and stuff for merch, so many people complain about prices of merch, etc. But like, it's not that weird when you think of inflation, when you think of merch cuts. Now that's a huge topic now about venues and festivals taking the same amounts of merch cuts. So like Cannibal Corpse sold t-shirts at Inferno for like 400 kroners. I don't know how much. You got dollars or something.
It's about 75 off the top of my head, Aussie dollars.
Okay, yeah. So, and for a regular peasant, that's way too much for a fucking t-shirt. So, so I totally get that people don't want to buy as much merch or as much records because people are struggling just to pay the rent, getting fucking food on their table. So, like the whole dream about getting your LP out, selling it out, and stuff like that is never, in my eyes, fucking harder than it is right now. Me being in the same boat as right now, we're going really slow. Like the physical sales are, of course, better than they were 10 years ago when you look at it, but still such a tough game. And like we waited for our LP to get pressed like almost a year, or I think just above a year or something, which is actually kind of not that long for some other bands that we heard that wait like almost 2 years for their LPs to get fucking pressed. So I don't know. Like I think what's exciting there is that it should make a more interested in building more like vinyl pressing factories, like more local, like underground uh, presses and stuff like that. So, and some people have already started that, but I think it's gonna be cool to see how the physical format might its like return in such like in a way larger scale than we've seen it before. So, pretty fun if that ever happens.
Yeah, no, it's always interesting to me to see that even with all the different streaming and internet-based services, that the diehards still flock to having physical copies of things. I think it's really good. But yeah, who would have guessed when, you know, CD came about, and when we started having all these new technologies for listening to music come about, that we would need more facilities for pressing vinyl in the year 2023.
Yeah, obscure. You know what I mean? Like for me, like physical formats, I was never really that into CDs because I thought it was a really, I don't know, like a messy format, even though it's smaller and way slower than LPs, I guess. But something about the LP when you get to get like it's a bigger experience. You get like full cover, probably get like some stuff inside, and get like whole like the whole record, and like I don't know, it just feels more fulfilling than to have like a small compact CD thingy that you just chug in your car. uh, but I some in some weird way because we toured Germany in September with Filthdigger with this awesome band called Cryptic Brood, and all the Germans just wanted CDs and no LP. Like we sold LPs, but everyone was asking for CDs for some reason. And for us Norwegians, that's like what the fuck, like CD, that's like Stone Age now. Because LPs are doing its comeback for us now, but so many other bands in Europe are still onto CDs, and that's still like thing. I don't really get that. It's just how it is because So if I'm planning this European tour with December, and I don't really want to press CDs for our latest album, but I think I'm gonna have to do it just because the demand for CDs is way higher than I thought it.
Mm. Yeah, for me, it was this thing where I started buying them young because, it was quite expensive to get a record player here and to buy LPs as well. And so at any point, I could have jumped, but I just kept getting CDs for a long time because it's what I already had. But more recently, I've started migrating my collection over to LP, and I regret not doing it sooner. But yeah, it definitely seems to be a regional thing as well. Different parts of the world like CD, different parts like vinyl. It's all good,
Yeah,
I guess. Supporting your favorite bands is the important bit.
yeah. I mean, all in all, it's just buying the music from the bands you like. Uh, Speaking of, 'cause you're in Australia right now, and the Australian death metal scene is getting really good attention now. Uh, Here we pay a lot of attention to the bands coming out there, and Ruun is actually doing a gig with Faceless Burial in 6th of June in Oslo. That's going to be fun to combine two different parts of the world with this combining death metal force. So
Yeah, that would
it's
be
going to be
brilliant.
fun. I think it's going to be fun to start mixing like the same and like energy and vision and spirit of all these death metal bands, but like all across the world, like different. I mean, of course, it's been like that for many years, but I just feel that it's getting like this new breath of fresh air. Like it's way more in now because like death metal was super big when like Morbid Angel made fucking videos, MTV and shit, and in like the early 2000s stuff, it was completely dead. Even though a lot of bands were putting out good albums still, but now it's like so many bands are pumping out so much quality, good shit. The Faceless Burial is quite, yeah, absolutely one of the better ones from Australia. Also, band Alters, really solid band. So it's gonna be fun to have them over here. Faceless Burial with the band Mortuous from the US. So it's fun to be able to bring in some really far out outsider bands like the small Scandinavian country to show this Norwegians that like there's good death metal all parts of the world, and I think it's gonna be fun to see in the future if we get some more rotation, like if it's gonna be easier to cycle bands from all around the world. But as of right now, with plane tickets and shit like that, and it's I guess it's always been like that. It's a little far fetched thought, I guess. But again, back to the talking so fast. Back to the Australian scene. How like have you are you focused more on like the black metal scene, or are you also paying as much of attention to the other styles, subgenres
I
Australia?
think when it comes to Australian extreme music, we don't have enough people for the size of our country to have the luxury of hyper niche scenes. So you'll see the same people turning up to a black metal gig for the most part that you will a death metal gig, or a prog death gig, or a deathcore gig. Um, One thing that I have seen a lot of is an increasing crossover in people that are interested in, say, hardcore. And I think uh, a band like Speed doing really cool things, but are more your traditional hardcore, um, but also have that sort of thrashy HM2 pedal sound going for them that attracts a lot of people in the same way that we had Into the Fall Festival organised by Lachlan Watt from the band Run, actually RUN, Run. And
We should do a tour.
yeah, you actually should. Yeah, Lachlan, if you're listening to this, mate, Book Ruun for the next one. Great band.
Ruun, of course.
Yeah, but you get a little bit more of a crossover between these things. But I mean, since the Iada's Murder started doing their thing, I think deathcore in particular is probably one of the bigger underground scenes here. Everyone wants to be involved in post-hardcore, deathcore, all that kind of stuff. We took a lot of inspiration from the American sort of 90s, early 2000s scene in that sort of stuff. And to be honest with you, it's never been my favorite genre. I've always been more interested in, Opeth are a great example. Norwegian black metal, obviously, a huge influence on me. And we had bands that did it, but I don't think we ever really had a full blown scene. I think Destroyer 666 were pretty big at one point, and moved overseas to pursue what they were doing, just to be closer to where there was more of a scene for it. But yeah, we just don't have we don't have enough bums in seats, or in the case of metal, enough people to get in the door to be picky about our subgenres. So I think that's maybe why the hardcore, metalcore genres tend to really dominate here. That's my 2 cents. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that might disagree, but yeah, broadly
Always
speaking, that's sort
people
of
who
the
can.
state of the. Yeah, exactly.
What you're saying there, I mean, I think a lot of countries and cities can relate to is that, of course, uh, how many people live in Australia?
It's about 26 million.
Yeah, we got five. So
Mm,
talking about small scenes, I mean, of course, if you go to a black metal show, you will of course usually see some of the people for death metal stuff, thrash stuff, but still like just Oslo specifically, of course, in a really small scale, but in some scales we have like see the same people going to like Dawn or Doom stuff, same people going to the more death stuff, black metal stuff. But I think it's nice that like there's so few people, if you see it like in the big picture, I think it's nice to some form unite all the different subgenre fans to like kind of like force them to the other stuff. Like thrash metal lover would be more like, okay, there's no thrash shows. Oh, there's a death metal show. I'll go check it out. Like to get more a unity with everything. And I think what's been kind of fun to see now is more like metal heads are starting to get more into hardcore and punk. I think it's kind
mm,
of cool, and vice versa to have like more punk people that listen to more grindcore and death stuff. Uh, what I think is nice about things being underground, being small, even though usually people will have this elitist, narrow-minded view at things, but sometimes it can also open for this unity and like sharing of ideas and expression. Quite a nice thing, but of course, it would be nice to have more people, bigger scenes, bigger everything. But make work with what you got. Yes.
yeah, exactly. And it's always been this really weird sort of thing to see bands insist on, over even sometimes just the silliest things, like a guitar pedal. Like you have to have this guitar pedal to be in this scene, or you have to record your drums this way, or you can do these drum beats, but you can't do these, or you're not in this genre. It becomes really tribal, and it's bizarre when you consider that metal as a whole, there's a lot of similarity between thrash and death, and thrash and black, and it seems that we all get better by being exposed at least to other bands and having to work with other scenes and see what we like and don't like about the genres that we aren't the most into, if that makes sense. I think it works out better for everyone in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but I mean, when it comes to, I'm like a subgenre nerd, so I I always like what creates like the characteristic of
Mm.
the different subgenres. Like use these types of blast beats, this order, this setting turns more into blah blah blah. And because all music works like that, like all the different jazz styles or blues styles, like use different kind of arrangements, different kind of yeah, instruments, the way you compose, the way the song is structured. Um, so I still think I don't like putting stuff in boxes, but I also think that the box should exist to I don't know, like look at it like a sandbox, like like a sandbox game, shit like that. That you have like this huge, you have a box, but you can fill it with so much stuff, you know. So death metal is like a huge sandbox of so much different stuff you can put in it. Still death metal, and of course, music is totally freedom of choice. You can do whatever the fuck you want. You can put some saxophone over a blast beat and call it, I don't know, Norgendarf. I don't know. But I think how it's become and to like have like this family tree and have like this mapping, I think it's really makes things more available and more easy for people to explore and find other stuff. Because I never heard of like death grind or fucking brutal tech death, like stuff like that. To characterize those things and to know, like, then you know what you get, and then it's gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna go look at more like brutal tech death bands because that's what you want to look at instead of like. So it makes like mapping and makes your direction when it's like to ex- explore new music easier. Uh, that makes any sense.
No, I'm definitely with you. And, you can look at it and say, okay, well, what are the things that influenced the bands that I currently like, and then explore a whole new world of earlier genres. And it works the other way as well. You can see, okay, well, who else was inspired by this band and head the other way as well. And it becomes a useful tool, I think, for exploring. There's definitely some merit in having these things labeled. But yeah, like you said, it's cool to think of it as sort of a sandbox where you're sort of playing around with these things and exploring relationships between different bands and different musical concepts.
I think that's I think that's why one of the main reasons I went like down the whole death metal path because you're gonna look at it as a sandbox. For me, one of the smallest sandboxes are black metal. Or to call something black metal, there's such a narrow path in what I've experienced that other people have interpreted black metal like what characterizes black metal like uh, not that much you can do till people will start like they will start to call it something else like it's not black metal, it's not actual black metal, it's something else but with black metal elements.
Mm.
But with death metal, I saw like this huge, way bigger sandbox with all like cosmic death bands, brutal bands. Fucking, you can just put pretty much every subgenre and put like either death, like front or back of the word, and it would still have by its core death metal because the mindset of usually like death metal musicians and bands is that because people always talk about how like passionate and raw black metal is, but I think you have the exact same passion, rawness, death metal, but like another setting. That
For sure.
when you feel like this heaviness on your chest, like this anger, bring emotion, stuff like that, like it's just as raw and just as passionate as anything, but another setting expressed another way. So I think when people say that the death metal lacks passion, lacks like rawness, I think it's totally off. That's my opinion. So I thought that death metal was all around more, just yeah, just more because much almost all the subgenres that I've been learning about, and it could still have the branding death on it.
Mm.
So I think that's why it stuck with me the most. That's why that's the genre I'm exploring the most every single day. Why I will keep on doing it, keep on also making that music. Because I've always wanted to make raw, intense, free music, but I I never had any intentions of labeling my own music. But then it soon turned out that I can do death metal because I can do a lot of like I can just widen a lot and still call it that it's death metal. Because some people will 100% call that Ruun is the 100% true old school death, which is isn't. We got some minor chords here and there. We got some atmosphere and yeah, some some happier stuff in there. But
Yeah,
in my ears, it's still death metal because I have that energy, that rawness, and that riffage, like characterizing genre. That's why I will keep on trying to keep myself in death metal. It's the biggest sandbox. Keep on that term.
yeah, absolutely. And I think you're spot on about the way that the black metal label is often quite restrictive. And I think for that reason, there's a reason that we have black and death metal, and no one talks about death and black metal because
Yeah,
once you start throwing these elements in, suddenly the black metal elites want nothing to do with it. This isn't black metal, and you know, we were talking to Eva, and he even made the comment of like, oh, people enslaved aren't a black metal band, or and that's fine if they want to say that, but if you want to talk about early enslaved and say, oh well, they don't belong in the black metal scene, then that's ridiculous. They were there, they were writing and influencing and it had all the the minor chords, the atmosphere, the blast beats at times. But it seems to me that death metal, I'm starting to stretch this argument a little bit, but it seems to me that death metal has this beautiful thing where it's much more forgiving, where you can have all sorts of different melodic ideas, all sorts of different rhythms going into it, different tones, and it's still death metal. It's just whatever type of death metal you want it to be. It's got a lot more
yeah,
creativity, I think, in that respect.
exactly. And I mean, there's nothing wrong about it's like you like eating pasta, it's totally fine to eat pasta if that's all you want to eat. But if you want to put some other shit into that pasta, that would be nice because like black metal be like being black metal and keeping it up true in its sense. There's nothing wrong with it as long as you don't judge any other person to make something else. But and it can also be comforting to know what you're gonna get. Like hear the word black metal, pretty much instantaneously what you will get. Some people find comfort in that. I totally get that. I mean, there's nothing wrong about being picky about your own music and like keeping it safe, I guess. But that's not how my brain works. And I think when you're talking about Enslaved, it's like one of the most inspirational bands of mine. Thus, Ruun is also the name of the band. Because yeah, of course they were a part of the early black metal scene, but I think they're one of the very, very, very few bands that has kept the black metal spirit within every single record they've ever put out. I
Mm.
listened to all of their records multiple times, and you can have like their most proggy new stuff, but it's still by its core, you will still feel like this is black metal with something else. Uh, and that's really impressive because there's not many bands that could say the same. So that's what's always been really impressive with Slade and how all those guys have like they've never been scared of doing something else. They've still some weird way managed to still keep it by its core the same. And I think that's probably the goal of mine as well to like try and always evolve and what comes to mind because people evolve, your brain evolves, your taste evolves, but it always by your core be the same good person. You know what I mean? So to keep like the foundation as best as you can and just build different fucking houses on top of it. There's metaphor.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I think that's about what I've got time for. I've got to go run off to work and do my adult responsibilities for the day soon. But
I gotta go to bed soon.
yeah, funny how that works, isn't it? If you got anything
Yeah.
else you want to add, anything you want to plug, or yeah,
I mean, Ruun just recorded 2 songs now for a 7 inch. We're looking for some labels to try and get some more stuff out because I'm not really interested in doing that independently anymore. And of course, doing Oslo Death Fest. It's the first time we're doing this, and it's the first week of December. Stuff is out on Ticketmaster, tickets, festival passes, day passes. We just posted the new like the new lineup with the kickoff and everything, and we got some other one-off events. So if you ever want to visit Norway, come say hi at the Oslo Death Fest. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be raw, brutal, and deathy.
yeah, sounds good. And hopefully we'll have part two to this chat when Ruun announced their Australian shows. God knows when.
Yeah, it will be something. Doing in Australia 2024 sounds like a plan.
Yeah, let's make it happen.